Good evening, everyone. This is Tuesday, January 12th. This is the regular meeting of the Rhinebeck Central School District Board of Education. I'd just like to call our attention to Mr. Burnell's birthday today. Thank you. Thank you.
25 today.
This is how he's spending his birthday.
Yes. Every few years, I do.
I don't even remember.
Just as much as everybody else.
To approve the minutes of the December 22nd, 2015 special meeting.
So moved.
By Deirdre?
Second.
By Lisa? Is that the regular meeting or a special meeting?
Regular meeting.
Yeah.
It was a regular, yeah.
Mayor Colfer? All right. All those in favor? That's all but me, and I will abstain. We have an opportunity for public comment. Would anyone like to make a comment at this time? Yeah?
Okay. Hi, Janet Stair. I had originally asked Joe if we could be on the agenda tonight because our special coordinators down at the Chancellor, Adela Bai and Sarah Norwood, asked to come and talk to the board because they wanted to tell you how excited we are about having the Harlem Wizards come. So I said, well, I'll come and I'll introduce you guys and we'll do it and we'll try to get some excitement going. But it got so exciting, we hardly have any tickets left. So let me just back up a little bit and tell you what's been going on with the PTSO and why we're doing this sort of thing. A couple years back, it became abundantly clear to us that we were having less volunteers, and when we were doing fundraisers, we were not making the money that the time and effort that went into it would warrant. So we decided we needed to change things up a little bit. We had already worked on our communication, and we were happy with the way that was going, but we decided to stop selling wrapping paper and stop selling trinkets and magazines and things like that at the middle school. So last year we introduced the script program and the spiritware program, but we also kept going all the other things that we usually do. And some of the things got so good that they turned into fundraisers, moneymakers, where they never were before, such as the Fall Festival. So that gave us the idea that having experiences for the community and making money off of that was probably a better option than trying to sell people things that they didn't want. So 2 years ago, Adela Bai brought the idea to us about this Harlem Wizards. The Harlem Wizards are like the Harlem Globetrotters, only not as famous. And they do fundraising, and they've been around since 1962. In fact, my husband saw it when he in Connecticut, back when he was a kid. So they've been around a long time. The players are not the same ones as back in the day.
I can play them.
But so the ladies started working on this project, and we wanted to make it a district-wide event. And we got the gym. The Bulkley gym is the biggest one, so we got that, and we started like brainstorming, and they started doing their thing, and they got in touch with the gym teachers, and they worked with him, Mr. Yarnell and Mr. Edson. Mr. Yarnell really ran with it, so now he's like the team captain and coach, and he put together a team of Chancellor, BMS, and RHS faculty, and I'll pass these around. I have some a list of the faculty members and their nicknames. So we have 21 faculty members that cover the whole school district. And the kids are really super excited. We've been advertising it on Twitter, Facebook, and through flyers being sent home. Our thoughts were that the elementary school is going to be the one that would probably take, go most, and then after that Bulkley, and then not so much from the high school. But we still have students and parents buying from all schools.
I see the nicknames.
So the situation is, it's going to be on February 4th. The Harlem Wizards will come. They're going to be here. The doors will open at 6. Between 6 and 7, they'll actually meet with any students that buy the shirts, the Harlem Wizard shirts, because those are whiz kids. So those kids will actually get to go out on the court and play with the players and that sort of thing. Our team will then be announced, and the Harlem Wizards, this is like a show for them. So they have this down to signs. They'll introduce the players. We're currently working on putting a cheer squad together with the faculty who are not as athletically inclined as the basketball players. So, and that seems to be shaping up, and I've heard rumors of, not for anything from pom-poms to pots and pans. So, I don't know, they're running with it. And so they'll introduce the players, and they'll come out, they'll play for a couple hours, and there'll be a halftime intermission, and that sort of thing. It seems like it's going to be a really great event. Literally, it is going to sell out probably tomorrow. It's amazing, and they really have this down to a science. That's the Harlem Wizards in a nutshell. From what I understand, Mr. Yarnell, the Chancellor, is working on a promotion video, which is going to show how our faculty is training in comparison to how the Wizards are training. So look for that about next week. And other experience things that we can share with the community. Again, at Chancellor, they're doing a pancake breakfast and a color run. Has anyone heard of these color runs?
Yep.
Sort of like a little marathon thing, and then they throw
Color dust at you.
yeah, exactly.
Chalk.
Dust. So right now, it's a definite go for Chancellor. We want to add a Bulkley time and a high school time. Originally, we thought we'd do the whole community at once, but then we realized high school kids running with elementary school kids, it's kind of going to maybe get a little too crazy. So we're probably going to try to do like at 2 different times, maybe one in the afternoon with the Bulkley and the high school kids. But then, we'll do our other normal activities like we do. Chancellor's going to have a talent show again this year. They always do the book fair and the ice cream social. And, the normal activities that we usually do. I can pass that around too if you want to see. So anyway, this is our biggest fundraiser of the year. As in the past, it would be split up between wrapping paper and magazines. Now this is going to be the biggest fundraiser. We're also asking the community, sending out requests for sponsorships so that their names will be in the bulletin. So anything we make in a sponsorship is all basically a donation to the PTSO, because by the time we sell out tickets for this, we will have paid off the Harlem Wizards, and we make money off of the sales, and then anything in the sponsorship category is free to us, plus we also get a cut of like anything that's sold or whatever. So, if anyone has any questions, happy to take them. If you're going to get tickets, you better get them online tonight. HarlemWizards.com. But it should be great. In fact, we had a wizard today at Chancellor. He talked to all the kids at lunch. If you go on our Twitter or Facebook, you'll see the pictures of all the kids, and they were having a blast. They're so good with kids. They're amazing. All the teachers would come up going, wow, these guys are pros. It'd have to be. So.
Thanks for being here, and that's great that you've sort of strategized around the idea of experiences.
Yeah.
And your Twitter feed was helpful because I'd seen a sign at the dry cleaner in town.
I too.
That was a
And
good
then I
sign
looked
placement.
on Twitter, and I was able to get 2 tickets a couple of hours ago online.
Good.
So I'll just say
Well, like I said,
that.
we're literally, before I came, they said we're down to 40. And after when the basketball player came today, we knew that was going to suck up the rest of our tickets. The kids were going to go home and ask for the parents to buy it. But so, yeah, if however, like someone on the board needs a ticket, I think I know. Just saying. So.
Deirdre.
I just want to say how extraordinary it is. You got so many faculty people to join this team, and how fantastic it is that the teachers are willing to, put themselves out there and play on behalf of our school.
Yeah, they're so into it. I mean, you can tell by the nicknames. I mean,
Yeah. And PTSO, parent, teacher, student organization. It's really wonderful to see that.
We learned our lesson. I think we all knew this from several years ago at Bulkley when they were doing a fundraiser. I don't remember what exactly the thing was, but the teachers had a volleyball game, and it was 2 teams, and the kids went crazy, and they literally packed the gym, and everyone wants to see the teachers and the faculty. They want to see their, in real life, doing silly things and being themselves. And we knew that was the key to making this a success. And so the fact that they all came on and wholeheartedly supported it early, and now the other faculty, the cheer squad, is like so cool. And we, in fact, the Harlem Wizards said to us, a lot of schools do like 2 programs if they can't fit everybody in the gym. So next year, if we like have so much demand, then we may end up doing, you know, a matinee and an evening performance or whatever. So, a challenge, I should say. So,
That's great.
Fabulous.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
What's the over-under?
All right, would anybody else like to make a comment? All right, in that case, we'll move on to the mid-year review of the 2015-16 board goals.
Well, as we do each year about this time, we take a look at the goals that the board has set for the district for the year and have an opportunity to do, you know, some reflection on those goals, remembering that we're barely halfway through the year, but I think in a lot of ways we've made some progress on those goals. But since they're your goals, I'll leave it to you to reflect and discuss. And again, we've got another 4 or 5 months to go till the school year's done, and lots to do with these goals over the next 4 or 5 months. So,
Deirdre?
Do we have to talk about the goals in order? Is that what your preference would be, colleagues?
you guys can do what you want.
Well, I just want to say that it seems in terms of goal number 3, advocacy, I feel like we've really kind of come out of the gate strong on that, thanks to, you know, our president and our superintendent for really issuing some extremely, I think, timely communications, and I think this really kind of follows from something that you said in your address to the graduating class last year, that it's very important that citizens get engaged around these issues having to do with the budget process. So I feel that that step in a way perhaps is the beginning of moving into point 2, program support under the tax levy cap, in terms of helping people in our community to understand what's at stake with the budget process and how we can get involved. So I'm feeling very good about number 3. And of course, we're going to continue to do our regular visits with our elected officials. That's always been part of the work that's been done with advocacy, but I think that there's been some really great innovation this year around this goal.
Lisa?
We're going to talk about the budget in a little while, so I don't want to dwell on number 2 too much, but I did want to just ask, since Joe had circulated communication to us about setting a date for the next coffee with the board, and suggested that the district's budget and financial situation be the topic for discussion at those sessions. Joe, do you want to potentially expand a little bit on how you see that discussion being set up for those sessions?
Well, I think we'll have a better idea once we hear what the governor has to say tomorrow, and what the immediate follow-up is to that. But we do have a letter that the board and I wrote and sent to our elected officials from the governor right on down the line, and that might serve as a template of bullet points that we can discuss with with members of the public who might attend our coffee. The idea, just in the interest of full disclosure, of setting that as a theme came from the Communication Committee's meeting just earlier this week. We felt that worked well in the fall to bring a larger crowd out to the board coffee, and that the state budget and the district's budget development process might be another topic that would interest a group of people. But as we've done in the past, it won't be a formal presentation, but we'll certainly have talking points. We'll have potentially more talking points after the next few days, for better or for worse, and it may give us some direction towards suggesting to our public what they might be able to do to themselves become engaged in the process. So that's about the scope of it right now. We have currently 5 of you are available in the morning on the 19th. 2 of you are available in the evening. 1 of you is not available, and 1 of you is still question mark at this point, given scheduling and the fact that, while I think it's not too last minute to promote it right now for next Tuesday, the schedule, at least my schedule, is very, very tight, and I threw out several dates in February, which would be my default dates if the 19th doesn't work, and that's fine too. I mean, I don't think we're at a disadvantage waiting until mid-February necessarily. So ultimately, before we leave tonight, the board should decide whether we're going to go with the 19th or whether we're going to swing into one of those February dates. There are, I think, pros and cons of doing it next week versus doing it in mid-February. So that'll ultimately be up to the board's pleasure, but that's the general format and focus, I think, and it's a timely topic, and hopefully we'll draw some people to both sessions. So,
Lisa?
I thank you, Joe.
Sure.
Appreciate that. I also wanted to address the first goal on comprehensive district educational planning. So, and not to put you on the spot, Laura, but I wanted to get a sense because you're our representative in that process, if you feel as though that process is moving in the way that you had hoped to see it when we developed these goals.
Yes, I do. I think it's been a tremendously collaborative process with teachers in all buildings, administrators in all buildings, PTSO community members. I can tell you that just this morning I met with a small group of constituents from that group to work further on the mission, vision, and core value statement based on the feedback we got from you guys, from the teachers that the administrators took, everybody's comments and the latest draft to their staff members. And in every building, they broke into smaller groups to discuss, what it means and how are we going to live into this preferred future. We made tremendous progress on it this morning. We're going to meet again Thursday morning to hopefully finish it off so that we can bring what we hope is a final draft to the CDEP committee at our meeting on the 20th. And then hopefully for board approval on the 26th.
Great.
So once we have the mission, vision, core value statement approved, that actually drives the rest of the planning, the strategic planning, because we know what goals we have to hit and how long it'll take, and we can start doing more of the minutia of the plan.
And will there be a plan document, or is there projected to be a plan document for the board to review, or how will that process develop?
Ultimately, and Joe, you can speak to this based on the last process, I don't have a strong sense of whether or not we're going to have a completed CDEP plan by June. And I think we'll know a little bit more as things play out after the mission, vision, core value statement gets approved, because we really can't move forward until that's finalized.
yeah, I think if we don't have something by the end of this school year, I anticipate we'll have a plan for board approval in the fall of next year. I'll also remind those of you who were around the first time through, and maybe nobody here was around the first time, maybe Deirdre, the original plan took us close to 3 years to put together. Now, granted, that was starting with a totally blank slate, and this is not that, but the fact that we started working on it towards the end of last year, and we're looking at we're hoping to be close to finished with it by the end of this school year or the very beginning of the next, is not surprising to me in terms of time. I mean, we're doing it in a deliberative way and a collaborative way, and being collaborative takes more time than just making a decision and going for it. One thing that I think has been very encouraging to me is the level of buy-in across all of the stakeholder groups has been high, where it don't seem to be twisting anybody's arms to go along with this. I mean, there's a lot of enthusiasm for it. I think this time through, we've already up to this point done more outreach to, especially to the staff members than we did in other iterations of this, and I think that's been a positive. I also think that, given the potential challenges of this year's budget development process, it's probably just as well that we didn't also have a big basket of ideas requiring funding from a CDEP plan that may have started sooner, because I think it would probably have been more disappointing than it may be another year. So I think timing-wise, we're probably in an okay place, just if only from the financial perspective, because typically in previous years, through the CDEP committee would come a list of recommendations for the board to consider, and most, if not all of them, had some kind of price tag connected with them. So probably just as well, given the circumstance. We didn't plan it that way, but I think it's probably okay the way it's rolling out. But it is rolling forward, and as Laura said, we're meeting on the 20th, and with a plan to finalize that mission, vision, and core values statement to bring to the board for approval. Our plan is on January 26th, and once that's received the board's stamp of approval with all this input from the board and other stakeholder groups, then we're off to the races in terms of doing the heavy lifting on the actual planning part of the planning process. So I think we're in a good place and making good progress.
Right.
And Laura's done a great job representing the board on that committee and in that work. So I appreciate her vigilance with that. It's been good.
Thank you for that.
It's been a pleasure, really a pleasure. Good stuff.
Deirdre?
Yeah, and I want to just commend the CDEP committee for focusing on stakeholder participation, even though it slowed it down, right? There was we had a mission and vision that was rewritten, and then you got a lot of feedback, so it slowed the process down, but I just think that's really valuable, and it reflects, one of our goals. So just in terms of relating it specifically to our goal, we wanted that collaboration. Although I'm reminded by the presence of some of the students here that I'm not sure we included any student representatives in that stakeholder group, so I don't know if that's something you might want to take back to the group, since we do have some student governance organizations. Also, I just want to amplify what Deirdre said about advocacy being on the communications committee. I think it's worth just taking a moment to note that in our doing advocacy around school policy and funding, we really did expand the arenas in which we have advocated and the issues on which we've advocated, both in responding to the governor's Common Core Task Force and discussing issues in the most recent letter around the budget, and trying to then, if you we'll talk about the communication minutes later, but reaching out to parents to do their own advocacy. So it's important, I think, to see that, because we've really never done such expansive advocacy. So again, in terms of the goal of, that was our goal, was not to just continue to do the kinds of things we've done, but to do more and different things, and we have.
Lisa?
I guess one thing that might bear some discussion on the third goal is, there are factors, evaluative factors in terms of administrative effectuation of these goals that we'll be looking at later on in the year. But, how will we as a board measure the effectiveness of our efforts? we can be happy that we've taken more steps than we have in the past. I think that's something legitimately to be pleased about. But can we also, objectively say, well, this has made a difference over our not having done so in previous years? Is that something that we're capable of doing?
Deirdre?
I mean, I guess I don't think we can draw a direct line, right, necessarily. And we're joining a chorus of people who have things to say about education policy and education funding. And, Joe and I just kind of on this topic went on last week. I can't even remember what day it was. We went to Monroe Woodbury to go to a presentation by Common Cause, which is a good governance organization on sort of school education policy funding of candidates and policy initiatives in New York State. So where does the money come from that tries to influence policy and electing candidates on various issues? And, one of the things that I was dissatisfied by was the executive director of NYSBA, the New York State School Boards Association, saying, well, we can't fight the money, so we just, provide information. And, I think the value is that we are part of a democratic society and we make our voices heard. We're elected officials, we have responsibilities, and to join in with other people, like we've said with the Dutchess County School Boards Association, and do what we can to make our voices heard and encourage other people, as Mark had said. It would be an interesting question to see at the end of the year, can we see any movement, say, for particular legislators? Are we getting different information from them, different votes from them, different feedback? I think that is important question to ask.
That's what I was thinking.
And I think it just might be hard to make the direct link, but I think it's a valuable question to ask.
That's true, and I'm glad that you made that connection, because this goal is not necessarily a one-time only goal. This is something that we probably will want to carry forward, especially if we feel like it's been effective, and may want to expand upon if we get the sense after this round that our representatives are not representing us effectively, which was a sentiment that was expressed after last year's round of meetings with our legislators and the results in the budget process. So, that's something to think about for towards the end of this school year, about whether we should be thinking about more pointed political action around that.
Deirdre?
This is my third year as a school board member, and my head sort of swims when I think about how much has happened in terms of the conversation and the climate around Common Core, around issues of advocacy, around the efficacy of actual grassroots political action on the part of parents. When we were at the conference this fall in New York, we were told that actually parents writing letters has had huge impact, not just keeping their kids out of tests, but really organizing and expressing their strong views on educational policy. So the degree to which we are directly elected by our members of our community and are in conversation with our community around these issues, that seems like a huge change and kind of step forward in terms of advocacy. So I think in a way we're just keeping step with something that's been happening in New York State more broadly, and the moment is good. So chicken or egg, it's a little hard to demonstrate in terms of assessment of our ability to live up to our own goal, but it seems to me that a tremendous amount has changed in a relatively short period of time around these issues.
Yeah, I'd also point out, just more generally speaking, that because we have these conversations every summer, it seems, when we're going through a process of developing goals for the year. And I think when we're in that mode, my sense is, and this is not, I'm not saying this as a criticism, but my sense is we're kind of, maybe a little skeptical, and is this really going to have an impact, and, whose goals are these? I mean, all these questions, which are good questions, and we ask them every year, and we kind of coalesce around a group of goals for the year. But what I think is obvious, and it's more obvious to me year to year, is that these goals really do drive the agenda for the district, and in many cases, they really do change the culture in the district. I mean, you're talking about, this isn't like a one-shot thing, and my sense is that we've kind of amped up our advocacy efforts this year, and I would imagine that will become part of what we do going forward, these additional things. The communication committee has kind of taken the advocacy goal this year under their wing, because so much of it is communication, to whom we communicate, about what do we communicate, how do we do it. So I expect that's going to become kind of part of their agenda going forward. Whether or not advocacy is one of the 3 goals next year, it will be part of what we do. And then we've seen it happen in a lot of other areas. Technology, several years ago, we had a technology goal, and we're doing a ton with technology. It's not one of our goals this year or last year, and probably not next year, but we're doing a lot of stuff with it. Same with communication. So I think it's important especially when you do kind of a mid-year review, to sit back and say, yeah, the stuff is meaningful, and it is changing the agenda in our district, for our district, and that's, I think that's something to be proud of, actually. Lisa?
So following up on that, in past years, you have said to us that some of the goals that the board sets are the bases that you use to express to the district staff how they should be expecting to conduct themselves and how the administration will be conducting itself. And I'm wondering, with respect to these 3 goals, what this year has been so far in terms of that?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. Well, in terms of the CDEP plan, we've just talked about how we've engaged them much more actively this time around in what's going on, understanding what's going on, and developing the mission, vision, and core value statement. So I think that's significant, and we've talked at CDEP about how the outreach piece, just relative to our comprehensive planning strategies, will go forward. In terms of advocacy, I haven't done this yet on the most recent letter. I'm working on it, but the letter we sent to the governor's commission on the Common Core, we sent to our staff, and I think I've already shared with you that I got a lot of positive feedback from staff members sending me emails saying how proud they were of the district for taking a stand and speaking up, and thanks to the board. So that certainly resonated with them, and at the very least set an example, I think, to them as to how you can step up to the plate and say what's on your mind. And perhaps less so up to this point in the year, but I anticipate the same thing is going to happen as we start having budget discussions, and we know a little bit better shortly what the context of those budget discussions are going to be. We talked to Communications Committee the other day about setting up meetings with some of our community leaders from the PTSO, from the Science Foundation, to talk about where our budget's at and how they might be able to help us advocate for what's needed for our students, and also meeting with our employee bargaining units to talk to them about where we're at and what kind of impacts we might see, and again, giving them an opportunity to at least know what's going on and potentially to do something about it. And we don't have the answers to those questions right now, but that's already on the drawing board. So I think we've connected each of these three goals to our staffs and to the larger community, and I anticipate we're going to be doing more of that as we work through the year towards our budget vote and conclusion to the year. So I think that's, to use one of my colleagues, Marvin Krebs's phrases, it's kind of baked into the plan, and I think it's working.
Excellent.
All right. Anything else on board goals? All right, move on to 2016-17 budget development update.
Okay, I'm going to turn this one over to Tom Burnell. We're going to be giving you the kind of the 30,000-foot view again. Use another Krebsism. And we are still very early in the process, but Tom has, we've taken a step past the rollover budget, which was a much more abstract budgetary concept at this point, at this December point in time. And what you have in your binders is the first draft, which is a little less abstract in that it's been built upon actual submissions of building and department budgets. So we're working a little less in a theoretical world and more in a practical world. That said, I would remind all of you, even though we have this discussion each year, that this first draft budget is a fair way away from where we anticipate the budget that goes to the voters in mid-May is going to be. We can only hope so. It's a very conservative budget. There are things built into this budget draft that we know are going to change. We don't know exactly how much, but we know there are going to be changes. A lot of them are placeholders for things that we don't know whether they're going to align with reality another couple, 3 months down the road. We'd be irresponsible not to build those placeholders in, because if those things come to fruition, then for better or for worse, we're going to have to deal with them. Short-sheeting our budget is not going to help us if, in fact, we need the budget support, especially to meet mandated items that we really have little control over. So that's kind of the overview of where we are now. Again, at the risk of stealing too much of Mr. Burnell's birthday thunder here today. There is no increase in state aid figured in here, and we don't have anything. We'll know better tomorrow.
Maybe.
Hopefully we'll know pretty soon whether we're even going to get state aid runs from the governor or not. And this thing could diverge in one of several ways, and we're unfortunately sitting here waiting to see which way our challenges are going to go. I think of the Yogi Berra's statement, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. And that's kind of how I feel as I'm sitting here today on the eve of the governor's State of the State and budget address. I'm not sure which fork in the road he's going to have us take, or we're going to have to take in spite of him or because of him, but we'll see. So that overview having been put out there, I won't ask Tom to go through this line by line, but I will ask him to go through and kind of highlight some areas that are the bigger concerns for us financially as we as we play this thing out over the course of the next couple of months, so. Kyle?
All right. Well, the first document I want to go over is the first draft budget. It should be in the tab right after budget first draft. Okay. Yeah, so some of you might have revenue starting first.
So it's 4.2.
4.21, which starts out with the Board of Education. And I'll just give you a slight overview right now. This is a 4.01% budget-to-budget increase, which is $2.71 million increase over last year. So I'm going to go over some of the highlights, and please, if you have any questions, please ask me. I may not have it for you, but I will get you the information you're looking for. But just starting for the first one, you'll see there's a $1,500 increase in your travel and conference. That's just something that you are doing with your advocacy and all that, and attending of different various trainings, New York City annual conference. I'm having to increase that to make sure that we cover the entire cost, so we don't have to have anybody say, well, sorry, we can't go, there's no money. Then, as I went through too, one of the things, there's no doubt about it, these budgets are getting tighter and tighter every year. So I'm trying to account for every penny where I need it. And give you one idea, under district meeting, you'll see salary non-instructional, okay? Never had it before, I put $800 in for it. And that's for our AV coordinator to take our meetings and put them up onto YouTube. That's usually for the summertime and that, so he gets paid to do it for that. So I want to put some money in the budget and say, hey, there's money that goes there too. In the past, I had enough room and be able to put money here and there, but that's not the case. I need the budget for everything. And you'll notice under some of these tabs, like under salaries or staffing, you're going to see extra lines in there. I don't name any person, I just have the title in there, but at the end, you'll start seeing things like kindergarten orientation, MAPS testing. These are all additional things that are above and beyond a teacher's salary. And so I'm putting them so you can see exactly what it's costing us to do some of these things that...
But these are contract expenses.
Oh, yeah. Oh, certainly.
Just you're breaking them out.
I'm breaking, because I want everybody, but I want those people who need that information to see exactly where those monies are going to and for what purposes. Chief school administrator is just normal, typical increases. Increased a little bit for travel and conference and other expenses, but is reducing supplies. Really, all through business administration, auditing, and treasurer, there's very little changes to it. Some increase for salaries, but pretty much everything's staying in line. Audit next year is $500 more than it is this year. So, nothing major, drastic. Total finance only up 1.5%. And then as we start going through this, the next major area really is operation and maintenance. It's the increases for the staff. Remember, Annie has a 2% increase, but also some people are hitting longevity.
What page is that?
This would be the bottom of page 3.
3 on to 4.
Okay.
Bottom of page 3 we're on. As we go over to the top of it, we do see a big increase. We're going from $1,000 to $23,000. On your board packet tonight, you'll see that we sold our minivan, which can't pass inspection. So that's been sold, and right now they're using the pickup truck. Sheldon is looking to replace that with the minivan. One suggestion I had to him that we think about leasing a vehicle instead. It's won't have the same amount of impact. But here's one of the things: you're starting to make decisions that you normally wouldn't. I mean, it's in the long run cheaper for us to buy a van that we're going to have for 10 years for $22,000 or $23,000 versus doing a lease that's going to cost me maybe $3,000 a year or maybe $4,000 a year. I don't know exactly. Right. But over 10 years, that's $40,000. So it costs more. But that may be one of those decisions we have to make to outweigh and say, hey, do I put $23,000 in for a van or do I put $4,000 in for a lease? So these are some of the decisions we may have to be looking at to determine what's the best thing.
Just buying it on
or buying
finance.
Well, that's possible too.
Sort of like
You know, so
splitting baby.
instead of a straight out purchase, I think we're going to be looking to a multi-year type of payment, if that's one of the things we even do. As Sheldon's very much aware that this budget is a bit tight. A little bit further down, we have fuel oil. Fuel oil's doing a great price right now. We just don't know if that's going to last or not. We're really afraid of that. And the offset here too is if, if the rate of fuel oil doesn't go up, that helps us maintain fund balance. So that's going to be very important as we go forward, fund balance. So, so that's why I don't want to reduce that amount, because that helps to keep the fund balance where it's at. If we do happen to get higher prices, it's there to absorb it. If they go lower, and I hear they may go even, someone was saying $22 a barrel versus, how much was it a couple of years ago? It was near 100. So it just kind of blows my mind how fuel oil is just dropping, as we hear it's going to continue to drop. A little bit further down, right below it, is electricity. We did reduce that a bit because we're going to be locking into a rate with them for the next year or two. The rates have gone down quite a bit. We just don't want to see them rebound and go up, and we have to pay higher electrical prices.
What's your belief that it's necessary to lock in at this point, premised on?
Well, because we thought it might go a little bit lower as far as the rates, but we've noticed in the past week the rates are starting to inch back up. So we want to lock into it before, if they take off. Mm-hmm. We don't feel as though they can go much lower than what they currently are, and we want to safeguard ourselves from something happening which just all of a sudden they just go up out of sight.
Right.
So we're looking at a company like individuals can, to get their rate from someplace else and lock into a rate. I think the rates are kind of the lowest we've had in a few years, so Sheldon feels as though we should just lock into it and be assured that that's our rate for the next couple of years, and work from there. If it gets, if they happen to continue to go down, bad decision, but we feel as though they can't go too much lower.
Okay.
They can't go too much lower. Under maintenance, pretty much a lot's the same. Under repair and maintenance, all district, you do see an increase of $28,200 over the current budget. And for the life of me, I can't remember what Sheldon told me, what that additional is. I will get to him and I will email that out to you, because I off the top of my head, I can't remember what he told me that was.
That's something he budgeted for.
Yeah, something he's budgeting for. For one, I spent all afternoon, I should have just called Sheldon and said, what was that? But I couldn't remember what that was. As we go over onto page 5, as we see here, right away you'll see a $30,000 deduction. Yay! Well, it just got moved to a different account. I've moved it out of administration and put it into instruction, probably where it should have been from the beginning. This is the storeroom supplies that go to the classroom, not to the offices. So I just put it there, and you'll see later on where there's the increase of that. So it remains at 0. I just moved it around. Not too much else going on. I did find some savings in central data processing, reduced that by $19,000. And that is, we dropped the service with Ulster County when we hired Steve Jensen, and I realized we just haven't, there's no need for that amount in there, so I took that out of there. We're not signed up for that. Insurance looks good. Our insurance actually numbers were pretty low this year. It was actually about $100,000. So, there's no increase there, and I may, after I talk with our insurance person, be able to lower that a little bit. BOCES overall, just to tell you at the last line there, BOCES is about 2.65. BOCES has done a really good job to keep their cost in shape. This is just a guesstimate right now. The figures for admin have not been published yet. A lot of their other ones have been published, and they're reflected in here, but that's one that we won't actually get for a couple of maybe another month or two. But in talking with Sherry Wesley, the BOCES administrator, she said that it would be no more than 2.5%. So I gave myself a little wiggle room, because there is something called ARWATA, which our things are based on. It's a weighted attendance, And that compares us to the other school district to say, we have 3% of the kids, we have 3.5% of the kids. That number can change on us and bump us up or down, depending on enrollment in all the other districts. As we switch over to the other page, we get to right at the beginning, total general support. This is, I want to say, remember in the three-part budget, admin, program, and capital. Doesn't quite work that way, but general support is going up less than 0.89%. Now we're getting into what I consider a program. This is the guts of what we do and what we're here for, and that's to provide education to our community residents. And under curriculum development, pretty much Marvin has kept everything the same. Curriculum development still at $80,000. There is an increase to clerical salaries, and I've talked about this before. We're getting less federal aid, meaning a greater portion of the general fund needs to support those people who were otherwise under a federal grant. So the next section is supervision, regular school, and now this is where a lot of the principals put in their input because these are their offices. The first part is salary. You'll see an increase there for a little over $11,500 altogether, and this is basically, this increase is actually a decrease to the athletic budget. We're taking a person who had part of the salary assigned to athletics, and they're now working with the principals both at the elementary school and high school. But as long as there's an $11,000 increase here, there's a $20,000 decrease in another area, so a nice little offset there. One of the things I will be providing to you, and I don't have it at this moment, is a list of all the equipment that's being requested so that you can actually see what it is and make a determination whether or not we'll be able to afford it this year. And then as we go through onto the next page, like you say, it's not overall, it's 1.7%. You know, not a big deal. In-service training, we see there, still right about a little bit higher than that, 2.79, but that area there, 1.68%. The next one is where we start and get to a bulk of it, and that is the regular school. This is most of our teaching contingents in here. The first part is our K-6 salaries, all right? And you'll see a decrease there, all right? In Chancellor, I took one teacher out of the mix. We are anticipating, right now we have 3 kindergarten teachers and then 4 teachers at the other 5 grade levels. Our idea is now those 3 kindergarten teachers are going to move up, not the individuals, but the 3 slots or cleared classes are going to go up to 3 classes in first grade. I'm replacing it with 3 kindergarten classes. We'll know a little bit more once we start enrollment for kindergarten, but I think Brett and I and everybody don't think we're going to see a big influx to say, oh, we got 40 kids or 80 kids at our door, we need 4 sections. I think we're going to be in a place of between 60 and 75, and 75 now starts to give us a little, 25 in a class, but they do have an aide. So there are 3 aides with those 3 classes. So.
I'm sorry, Tom, you said that then 1 through 5 would have 3 sections?
No, for what I have budget here is 3 sections for kindergarten and first.
Oh, kindergarten.
Second, third, fourth, and fifth have 4 teachers.
Okay, thank you.
So class sizes should remain relatively the same.
They're just moving up from where they are now,
Right,
and we're
because
making
we're
an
only-
assumption that next year's kindergarten will have 3 sections.
Yeah.
So that, just to clarify, excuse me, so that's you're budgeting here 1 fewer teacher at Chancellor?
That's correct.
Correct. And the next section is the secondary, meaning the middle school or 7th grade through 12th grade. We do see some increases there. I'm going to need to go back through it just to double check everything. I was a little concerned now. Some of what I had especially at the secondary level between our 2 principals, they gave me exactly where these teachers are. And I moved actually a couple people out of the middle school. Remember, with the middle school, grade 6, they all became basically .8 teachers at the 6th grade level. And then all the other ones basically went up to the high school to take over classes up there. So I had them totally all budgeted for in the middle school, so I had to move them out and bring them up to the high school. So that's why you're seeing a negative in the 6th grade, and you're seeing some increases to the high school above what you would normally would see. But I do need to go back through there. I did one time through, I need to go through it again, because it does seem a little high there. But I do definitely want to go through again. I think I got one person double counted, but I just couldn't identify who it was yet. I think I know what it is, but I need to go back through and figure that out to make sure. And I will definitely be looking at that. Now, you do have this information in your books here under staffing. So I'll need to take a look at that. It is an area of concern that I do need to go through and look a little bit closer. As we go on to the next page, we're taking, monitors. That's exactly what I was expecting, about 2.5%. Is, like I said before, Annie went up 2%, but people are hitting longevities, which increases it just a little bit more. When we take a look at equipment altogether, it's about a $12,000 increase over the previous year. Okay, like I said, I'll get you a listing of what they anticipate to be buying out of that. And as we go over it, just little things, little ups and downs, nothing really huge as far as I'm concerned as we take a look at it. Actually, quite a few negatives as we go through it. But when we get to textbooks, we see there's actually a pretty decent decrease. If you're on page 10, you'll see about a third of the way down, you'll see total textbooks. Last year we budgeted $115,000. This year we're looking at $91,000, so a decrease of about $24,000. It's still more than what our textbook aid is. So it's not like we've gone below a threshold where we're not going to get some aid back. So we're still within there. It's just a decrease. Right below it, we see a decrease of $30,000. That's one less placement in regular BOCES. All right. No, not ICAD. This would be the alternative high school. Not special ed students, but regular students attending what is called the alternative high school at BOCES. So
With one fewer person.
we have one fewer person. I had 3 last year in place. This year I'm only carrying 2. One we know of, one's an unanticipated.
Tom, can we go back to textbooks here for a minute?
Yes.
I mean, since one of our goals is to support the program in spite of our financial situation, what I'm hearing here is that we have the actual textbooks we need, so that $24,000 isn't going to not be spent and leave some students or some class level or some in particular class without a much-needed textbook? Or?
I have never heard of any kid dealing without a textbook or any teacher who didn't have the textbooks they needed. As far as I know, whether it's stopped at the principal's level, I don't know about that. But as far as, I've never in any way, shape, or form put a stop in any textbook, except for those that had not come to the board first.
Right.
If they haven't come to the board for your approval.
I figured that's what you were going to say, and they've decided either they can put it off, or they don't need it, or the textbooks they already have are suitable, or something of that.
Correct. And this is something I think Marvin's worked on with the principals and the department chair people, is to have like an ongoing evaluation of different areas such as math and English. So, you take a look at math one year while you're studying math, he's purchasing the English books that they looked and reviewed the year before. So it's not like everything comes at the same time. So he tries to stagger those particular areas to make sure that, like, oh, we don't purchase anything this year, like next year, and we got to double up on everything. And that's something that they don't do. They kind of have a cycle to that.
My understanding is that these figures did not come from any directive from us to cut back X or cut back Y or cut back Z. So, we may be looking at that in the next iteration or iterations of this budget, but in terms of the first draft, we put in everything they've asked for. So, based on that, I would say they're telling us we've got what we need.
Works for me.
About 80% down the way, you'll see a big number there, an increase of $30,000, and that's supplies for the storeroom. That's what I talked about earlier, moving out of administration, putting it in instruction. As we move over to the next one, and this is just the supplies in that. Actually, their supplies actually do go up a bit, but that's mainly because I moved $30,000 in there. We can see overall almost 3.9% increase to the I'm going to say the regular education is what they call it, the regular, right. So that seems right on par with the total. So most of our efforts are put towards the education program. Now the X area, this is where it scares me, and that's programs for students with disabilities. Might as well just go down to the one that's a big one, and that's tuition other. And you'll see that that's doubled the amount. We're going from $450,000 to $940,000. Now I'm putting worst case scenarios in here. And let me tell you kind of what the placeholders are out there, because I won't talk about any individual. But what we basically have is we have 3 students eligible to graduate this year, but they do have to age 21. So we don't know whether or not, for some reason, they'll continue on, or are they going to get their degree and they're going to move on from there. So we got 3 people. Our interim is looking into these 3 people to see whether or not they know if they're going to graduate or not. One of them goes to school with my daughter and has been going with her ever since elementary school. Well, my daughter's graduating. Now is the girl that she's been with since, I think it was 3rd grade or something like that, going to graduate too. That's something that he needs to find out. We also had a 4-year-old who's got some severe problems. We don't know whether or not she'll even be enrolled into any school for that matter. It just, they stay homebound, and that be it, and that there is no, we won't need to that, but they have not had those discussions with the parent. They do know the parent and the issues that are going on, but nothing has been determined at this moment. So that's a possibility. We also have a student in this school who should be graduating this year, who's in a work-study program, which has been very expensive. So we're hoping that that graduation will take place and we'll be able to take those monies out of there. We also have another student who's parentally placed. Right now, I'm putting money in the budget just in case a court says the district needs to place them and not the parent. So I put that in as a possible additional cost to the school district. But between those 6 people, we're talking approximately $325,000. So,
Of additional cost.
Of additional cost. So we're hoping that we'll be able to pull back all of it. All of them will graduate and all that good stuff. But there's at least $325,000 of items in here for 3 or 4 people who are looking to graduate, 1 student coming in. And also in this budget are 2 unanticipated placements just in case somebody moves into the district. So it's expensive, and that's between that and BOCES. So those 2 lines. BOCES is going up about $90,000, but once again, that could be cut back too, depending upon the needs of those children.
Tom,
Yes.
in those unanticipated placements, what are you using to use the number 2 as your placeholder numbers as opposed to, 3, 5, or 0? You see what
How
I'm...
did you choose 2 as unanticipated
Why did
as
you...
opposed to 3 or 5?
Exactly. or none.
Well,
Or 1.
it's one of the things that's something I've done for the past 9 budgets. I usually put an unanticipated in BOCES and an unanticipated in private. I want to say private placements, private and residential placements, which means they're private schools, not public schools. It's kind of hard to tell because, there was a couple years where I didn't get in. But then last year I got 6 that were not anticipated at all. At least 6. It could have even been more than 6, to tell you the truth, because it absolutely blew us out last year in the summertime when we just had at least 10 people show up. A couple of them we knew were coming, but a lot came that we had no idea about. And but over the years, like I'll go years with unanticipated placements and nothing materializes. Or in fact, there was one year a couple years ago where we lost 3 or 4 kids. They moved out, and that was like, wow, that was great.
I think it's probably pretty safe to say that based on especially Tom's experience doing this, that you've got to make a decision as to how much you put in there. I mean, would we be even safer if we put 6 extra spots in there? Well, yeah, of course we would, but now we're balancing the impact on the rest of the program. So somewhere there's a magic number that seems not excessive, but not going to cut us short. So that number is 2. I mean, there's no guarantee.
Of course.
We could get 6.
Of course.
We could get none. So it's kind of it's a best guesstimate based on our experience and our understanding of what we might reasonably expect. I mean, it's not a total wild guess. It's an educated guess, but it's still a guess.
And I didn't mean to suggest that I doubted that was the right number, but I wanted to understand it.
Oh, I understand.
Why you came to that.
I agree. Yeah, it's a good question.
I didn't think that.
No, not at all. And some of these too, depending on particularly what location they're in, it could be a reduction in transportation too. Because some of these are singleton people.
There could be some offsets.
Yeah, so there could be some offsets there too, which would be an added bonus to that. So, but overall, as you take a look, if you go over to the next page.
I'm sorry, Tom, before you move to the next
certainly.
page, the top of this, the special ed teachers, it looks like you're adding a teacher?
No.
No? Top line? It's a big number, 47,000.
2.77.
Teacher salaries.
Oh, that's just, for the entire staff, okay.
Yeah, that's for the entire
Sorry.
special ed staff, right.
District-wide.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And if we go over to the top of the next page, you'll see at the top, it's like the 4th line down, you'll see a budget difference, $648,600. Over half our increases are related right here to special ed. Out of the entire budget is right here. So, occupational ed, right now, I might might be able to bring this down. We're still waiting to get some better figures out of the guidance department as to how many kids are planning to enroll in the Occ Ed program at BOCES. We are, as you know, with the graduation requirements that will be coming up, we feel as though we might start seeing this number start to increase as more kids may decide to go occupational education route versus college-bound. So we'll keep our eyes and ears open on that one, but I might be able to make some adjustments to that. Just like I said, I'm trying to be conservative when it comes to those type of things. Next area is school library and audiovisual. No real big increases or decreases to that whole section. Actually, less than a 1% increase. I found where we had some software money in the BOCES services and was able to take it out. Into the next area is computer-assisted instruction. And you'll see some increases here. And one of the things I do want you to really take a look at, and this is for the BOCES services computers, which is about 2/3 of the way down. It's the biggest number in that area, going up to $313,000 next year. This would afford us to purchase an additional $100,000 worth of equipment. I don't know what Steve's looking for to next year, because I'm sure he hasn't quite figured out exactly what can be purchased and what can be deployed and actually what platforms they all want and that. And so, but there is a placeholder in there to purchase at least $100,000 worth of equipment in a lease purchase, right, in a lease purchase.
Okay.